Matt Bernier with the stakes preview, taking a look at the nightcap on Belmont Stakes Saturday, race number 13 from Belmont Park, the Grade 2 Brooklyn Invitational, 1.5 miles on the main track. Take a look at this race using the new classic PPs available on DRF.com. Definitely want to encourage folks to go take a look at those. I'll show you a little bit of the functionality. We'll go through this field and post position order, and I'll give you a pick or some thoughts anyway about this race. We'll take them right in order. The number 1, Marconi, 1 of 3 in here for Todd Pletcher. You can see the connections paid a boatload of cash for this horse way back when, most notably because he is the little brother of Breeders' Cup Classic winner Mucho Macho Man. It's taken him some time, but it seems like he has finally found himself in longer distance races. Won the skip away 2 starts back, won the flat out at 1 3/8 most recently, rather impressively. Has a little bit of tactical ability. 9-2 on the morning line. Looks like a very fair price for a horse like Marconi. I've never been a huge fan of his, but perhaps it's just taken him a little while to figure things out, this whole racing game in the afternoon. I do think he needs to improve when it comes to a Beyer speed figure standpoint, though. Number 2 comes in from Southern California. That is Campaign for John Sadler. Javier Castellano with the mount. This is a nice son of Curlin, another one that cost a pretty penny way back when. It feels like he has found himself in longer distance races, whether it be on the grass. And again, for those of you that are new to the new classic PPs, you see these green speed figures. You might wonder what that's all about. They're still Beyer speed figures, but they are races that were run on the grass. So whenever you see the green figure, you know that that's a turf number, and the black number is on the main track, whether it's dirt or synthetic. But not only has this horse excelled in long distance races on grass, he's done quite well in longer distance races on the main track, including an impressive win most recently in the Grade 3 Tokyo City at 1.5 miles. That was back on April the 14th. I think you need to look at this horse and look at him as a major threat in a race like this. The distance is not an issue for him. I think the pace situation, certainly, you never know in these long distance races, and generally, I prefer to have horses with a little bit more tactical ability than Campaign, but he has shown himself to be a true stayer at this sort of configuration, but also have a little bit of a finish in him. Campaign, I just think he makes plenty of sense in this race, and 7-2 feels like a very fair price. I think one of the more interesting horses in this race is Sonneteer for Keith DeSormo. Sonneteer really, for the longest time, felt like a bit more of a bridesmaid than anything else. I know he won this 5th season last year down at Oaklawn, but it was with a perfect sort of situation where he came rolling on at the end at 29-1. And really, for the majority of his career, he's been a horse that has been best used underneath. Well, I can't help but notice that the first time they really stretched him out in distance was this little stakes race at Churchill Downs most recently, and he went on and won for fun. Goes off and wins by more than 7 lengths. The 92 Beyer, sure, that's not going to knock your socks off, but I like that all of a sudden he's shown a little bit of added speed, a new dimension to his game. He can be closer to the pace, and the distance, you see him being by Midnight Loot. You question how far he wants to go. Midnight Loot's actually done okay as far as getting some stayers. I think Sonneteer at 10-1 with Corey Lannery aboard is sneaky in this spot. He's going to be one of 2 A's for me in the Brooklyn. Move on to the 4-horse, War Story for Jorge Navarro. This is a horse that has had a nice, successful career running in races like this. The Brooklyn in particular. He won the race back here. You can see this in 2017. You can see the race last year. Ran a good second in behind the Old Boy Opportunity. This is a horse that has danced a number of different dances, different configurations. Most recently, a decent enough effort in the Charlestown Classic. I didn't think it was one of his better efforts, but you do know on his best day, he can fire a big shot. And at 5-1, I wouldn't talk anyone off of War Story. I won't be using him because I'm starting to wonder if he's trending off form, but I can understand anyone that looks at him and says, you know what, have to include. Number 5 horse in here is Biblical. Another one of the Pletcher horses, another one that cost a pretty penny. He was no match for Sonneteer in that most recent effort. And you go to that skip away 2 starts back, no match for his uncoupled stablemate Marconi, or for that matter, even Realm. I look at Biblical, and I can sit here and say Marconi is a horse that I haven't really ever loved, and it just doesn't seem like he's ever put it together. Biblical times 2. I don't know if he's got this racing thing down right now. I know he won this race in his first start off of about a month and change layoff. I think that was a relatively weak group. I don't think much of this horse at this point. Could he win? Certainly. It's Todd Pletcher. It's Belmont Park, and he's done some good things. And this horse looks like he's got a decent enough pedigree, but there's just a part of me that looks at it and says, I don't know if he's actually quite good enough to win in a spot like this. I think he deserves to be the 20-1 morning line price that he is. The 6 is Rocketry for Jimmy Jerkins. Rocketry, if you ran this race last year, he would have been a major, major threat. You take a look at these two races on the main track to round out his 4-year-old campaign, a win in the Grade 2 Marathon, going a mile and 3/4, a win in the Temperance Hill, in that race at a mile and 5/8 at Belmont Park. It felt like he was really blossoming into that long-distance stayer. Well, his 2 runs thus far in 2019, a little bit lackluster. I know he came in a little bit of a bid here, finishing well behind a horse in Marconi that he'll run into again here on Saturday afternoon, but I just haven't been wowed with what I've seen from him. Now look, maybe third start off the bench is really what you're looking for. He just needs to show me a little bit more for me to really be intrigued by a 7-2 morning line. You can click through, and again, for some of the functionality that you're looking at as far as the new classic PPs, if you want to see how he's done just in his recent races, you can click and see these are just his past 12. If you want to see just his past 6, it's entirely up to you. Some people are more interested in his overall body of work, as that would basically be what I like to see. I like to see the lifetime PPs. And then if you're a fan of workouts, you click on Show All Works, and bang, you get every single recorded workout that these horses have. If you just click that little drop-down menu. So you've got a number of different things that you can play with. Rocketry, look, his best race definitely puts him right there. I'm just not sold that we're going to see it. The number 7, You're to Blame, the third of the Pletcher trio. I think this is a likely sort of runner, a likely horse that is going to have a big chance in a race like this. He's done decent things at longer distances in the past. He won the Greenwood Cup last year at Parks at a mile and a half, second behind the good Rocketry in the Temperance Hill. And he ran a really nice race in the Pimlico Special. Look, I'm not sold on the Pimlico Special as a whole, but if you want to give anyone sort of some credit, I think a horse like You're to Blame deserves it, simply because the start wasn't ideal, and I like the way that he dug in finishing at a mile and a quarter. Gets a little bit of added ground. Third start off the bench, and again, it's Todd Pletcher at Belmont Park. I think you have to respect this horse. 3-1 in the morning line. Don't know that I want to take that on any of these horses, but I can understand he has plenty that sort of warrants consideration in a spot like this. The 8 Realm. Big question for me is, how far does this horse want to go? I know he won at a mile and an eighth in the Aladar last year, but that was at 12-1. You take a look, for the majority of his career, he's been at 1-turn miles or even 7/8 of a mile. I'm not convinced that added ground is his friend, but he figures to be forwardly placed in this race. And 15-1, if you're not sold on any of the other horses, the more established long distance types, perhaps Realm is one that you can get involved at a big number. And we go to the far outside, the number 9 horse. That's Forewarned, going out for Uriah St. Louis. Manny Franco has the ride. These two, this jockey trainer tandem, they teamed up to win the Jockey Club Gold Cup last year. Obviously, we know about that with Discreet Lover. This horse, distance, perhaps it's going to be okay for him, but to date, it feels like he's done his better running against inferior company and at shorter distances. Breaking from the far outside, I've made it clear I don't know how much of a difference the break and the draw means at a mile and a half, but Forewarned, to date, he's only shown his best going shorter. I'm a little bit dubious about the distance. Let's take a look and see the horses that I'll be using as far as horizontal wagers are concerned in this race, the 13th, the Nightcap, and the Brooklyn. You can click on Wagering and Live Video in the new Classic PPs, and you'll note that I've already made 2 horses A's, the 2 and the 3. The 2 is Campaign, and you can see the connections, and the 3 is Sonneteer. If I had to pick one, an air quotes pick, I'd probably go with Campaign, because I think he has done it against better horses at longer distances, but I'm very intrigued with the 10-1 on Sonneteer. So if I'm playing any of these multi-race wagers, this would obviously be the payoff leg, because there are no more races on Saturday at Belmont. The 2 and the 3, I'd use them in equal weight. I respect the Pletcher horses, but at the prices that they're likely to be, I'm just more interested in the 2 and the 3 in the 13th at Belmont Park on Saturday. And the beautiful thing is, right here in this menu, you click Watch Live Race, Belmont Park's feed pops up, you're good to go. You click Bet Now. All these wagers, whatever you decide to do, they go right into your DRF Bets account. And if you're a little bit confused still, you're not sold on what I've had to say about this video, you click on News and Analysis, you get Mike Beer and his analysis, and guess what? Spoiler alert, his best bet is Campaign in the 13th race. So that's something to keep in mind. You also get some other selections from DRF handicappers over here in this spot. So number of good things that you can do with the new Classic PPs available over on DRF.com. Race number 13. It is the Nightcap on Belmont Stakes Day, the Grade 2 Brooklyn Invitational, scheduled post time, 8 o'clock Eastern. Good luck.